Hi there, and welcome to the ATS podcast with me, Will Brown, and John Soulsby, where we break down chunks of health and fitness information into bite-sized pieces, remove a bunch of the noise, and just leave what's relevant. Today we're on season 3, episode 10, which is Understanding VO2 Max and its Practical Applications.
Yeah.
You do a bunch of cardio, Soulsby. Do you use VO2 Max in your training often?
I all the time. No, I mean my watch apparently tells me my VO2 max, and so for those that don't know, VO2 max is essentially like how much oxygen your body can utilize whilst you're training,
Mm.
um, effectively. And interestingly, my watch tells me a VO2 max for cycling and running, so they're different. I'm like, but I suppose that kind of makes sense from the fact that, like, funnily enough, I cycle a lot,
Mm.
so that's better than my running VO2 max because I'm more efficient. Like my musculature and everything has adapted more to cycling than it has running,
Yeah, fair.
so the whole system is more efficient. Um,
But so you did like the classic VO2 max things when you're doing your
yeah.
sports science stuff, didn't you? I was about to say I remember that
So
being Megan.
yeah, again, for any of those that are like new, have no idea what VO2 max is or how you test it, effectively, if you've ever seen those, like, watched anything sports sciencey related where they're testing people in a lab, 90% of the time the picture or video they show is like someone on a bike cycling away with a mask on, and they're probably doing a VO2 max test or something of that ilk. And you essentially cycle on a bike, and every 2 minutes it gets harder until the wheels fall off and you literally can't move your feet anymore. And the mask is there, so they essentially check the rate of, like, exchange of oxygen going in and CO2 coming out, and then the effectively where you fail is your VO2 max. That's like a very short answer to how the test goes.
I was about to say, so how accurate are like I guess commercial products at identifying a kind of VO2 max? Like there's calculations and stuff that people can do
Yeah,
similarly to how I imagine you calculate like max heart rate, but I know that's already slightly archaic in its applications. Like it might be good for a complete starting point if you're completely new, as in better
yeah,
than nothing. But like,
yeah. It, like, as the example of max heart rate, is like you can calculate it all you want, but I know very few people that have actually, like, reached it.
yes,
And then people who are really fit have a higher max heart rate than the calculation would suggest. So yeah, ballpark. Like, I don't know. I can't see how my watch is overly good at guessing my VO2 max, considering
mm.
all it does is check like oxygen saturation levels and my heart rate, and that's it. So how it has any idea how much oxygen I use, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's kind of
probably based. I feel it's going to be the same as the calorie tracking one of, like, it takes all science, like all science that's used um VO2 max test, and then seen people's heart rates at various, like, it's like SpO2, but essentially how much oxygen you're using, and then piled that all together and made a guess based on that data.
so a small sidetrack for a hilarious bit of trivia is that so elite athletes again, like I think I remember Lance Armstrong's getting quoted as like some absolutely nuts kind of VO2 max. I think I believe it's measured in like is it milliliters? Is it milliliters per kilo per minute?
Yeah, there's one of them. Yeah,
Something like that. So like an
oops,
elite
liters per minute.
level, yeah, an elite level athlete, he will typically get into like the 90s in terms
Yeah,
of that kind of measurement of the oxygen. I assume the oxygen utilization per kilo of body weight per time.
yeah.
Uh, Huskies have apparently been studied and have had VO2 max tests exceeding 200,
Jesus, does not surprise me.
which
They're
is
like absolute
absolutely
units. Like,
nuts. Yeah, especially if those are like Iditarod like racing Huskies, like sled
yeah,
pullers, like some proper fucking work dogs. But yeah, if you're ever like, damn, my dog never ever seems to get tired, you're like, well,
Uh-huh.
if your dog is rocking a VO2 max that's over double Lance Armstrong, that should explain why
Yeah.
keeping your husky in a flat all day, it's probably gonna mean it chews through your
It's
fucking
gonna lose
walls.
its mind, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna go nuts. That's wild. I never. It's also hilarious. I really hope they
Yeah.
actually had like some sort of masks on the huskies to try and get them like VO2 max tested
Yeah, I
and
don't
just
really know how they've done that. I mean,
ran
I
them on
suppose
the
like
treadmill.
some working huskies um will be like fairly chill with you doing kind of whatever to them.
Hmm.
Um,
That's quite funny. I never really looked into that for animals. But yeah, so it sounds like it's quite a complicated measurement to use for
yeah.
practical applications for the amateur athlete, I guess, or like the very amateur kind of trainee. I suppose when you get into
Yeah,
like amateur athletes, you probably could do something like maybe book one every 6 months and
yeah.
see if you can get it done privately and like maybe check it as like a kind of biannual, like twice a year
Yeah.
kind of metric on your training, I guess.
I have no idea how much a private like gas spirometry would be, which is effectively what you like. But I
Yeah,
imagine I don't
spending.
even know. I'm sure you could do one, but like I don't know how many places even. Um, I'm just going to Google it, see if you can even do
Yeah,
that. Go perform VO2 max testing. Oh, £95.
that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, combined VO2 max and lactate threshold test, 225.
Oh,
That's actually
combined. Ugh.
that's like really. I wonder if it's just like two tests though. But then that's like, oh no, 90 minutes. So yeah, you do them both. Bog in.
Oh, that's
Um,
so gross.
um, complete endurance package. Sweet. Yeah, they do some power stuff as well. But yeah, I suppose the thing is though is like what would you use it for? Like I generally like for unless you're a peak level athlete, like what would you actually you take your VO2 max and then what? Like sweet.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not like you can train like when let's take running as an example. It's not like when you're out in a run, you could train at 90% of your VO2 max.
Yeah, because you would
Like
never be able to tell where that is.
yeah, exactly. You can just do it. You could just do it roughly based on your heart rate, and that's why heart rate zone training is like kind of the peak for that.
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah, yeah,
I imagine a lot of people maybe either see it as something similar or something better just because it's this kind of like VO2 max kind of testing, as in like, I mean, I think it's more like it's going to be it's a lagging indicator of performance increase, as in like if your
yeah,
VO2 max is increasing over time, like if you measure if you like pay privately and got it tested once a year or twice a year,
yeah.
it's like a reasonable indicator that your training is improving your physiology towards your goal. But
Oh, 100%.
it's
But
reasonably, yeah. I mean, I guess the only way you could like one way you could definitely use it is I imagine those tests also track your heart rate because why not?
yeah,
Um, and then you could accurately map your heart rate zones based on like against a percentage of your VO2 max. So you could technically be like chart them together, but then you just end up using heart rate based training zones, which to be fair, you could maybe dial in a bit better if you have the kind of parallel VO2 max data to be like, oh, when my heart rate's about this to this, I'm at this percentage of VO2 max, or
yeah. But I can't see that changing like too much. Like,
over time.
well, also as in heart rate zones. I don't know what someone's VO2 max would be at their heart rate, but like
Hmm.
I can't imagine that changing too much on the population. I'm trying to find it now.
Oh, as in like the heart rate variability is quite well variable, but VO2 max is like not really variable. Like you're not going to get a massive increase in total VO2 max based off like untrained to very trained.
Yeah.
Fair. So yeah, it has fairly little practical applications. It wouldn't be something I would be mega concerned about worrying about. Like I feel like one of your better indicators if you are someone who cares about your running times, would be your running times.
Yeah.
Like maybe it sounds a bit simplistic, but given that you want to improve in this case or this example at running, cycling, swimming, whatever, um, looking into your run times as and your splits as indicators of training going well or training not going well seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
Like I would, for somebody who runs or cycles, track like your weekly volume of kilometers and potentially time spent in different heart rate zones and total that time up per week and see how you kind of do and base training around those
Yeah.
versus worrying about getting a fancy private VO2 max and lactate threshold. I mean, if you want a disgusting afternoon or morning, I would do it. I'd probably do it in the afternoon because you're going to be written off for like most of the day.
Yeah.
Like, if you want a disgusting 60 minutes or 90 minutes, then yeah, feel free. If you're like, how minging could I feel?
It's bugging. I'm gonna put it
Yeah,
out there. It's absolutely horrible.
yeah. It's literally like they don't let you off like kind of like, kind of half-assing a max. They're going to make you go until you can't go,
Yeah.
which is gross.
And then shout screaming at you until you go that little bit more, and then you're done.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
pretty is like handy metric. Very like it's cool to understand. Like anything outside of the elite level, is really not too much application. And I imagine the
Nice.
application is more in terms of like, yeah, they have funkier tech at the very spenny level to monitor people and see how
Yeah,
things are
and
going.
for like an elite level athlete, like times might not come down for a long time, but you're still wanting to track progress. And if you're talking about seeing improvements in VO2 max by like the decimal points,
Yeah,
rather than like most amateurs would see massive increases. So
totally fair.
yeah,
All right, we will catch you guys in the next one.